Greetings, I'm Stella. When I entered high school, I brimmed with optimism, believing it would mark the beginning of something extraordinary. It was my opportunity to forge new friendships, partake in novel experiences, and perhaps even ascend the social ladder. Yet, the reality proved far more challenging than I had envisioned. You see, during my middle school years, I had not exactly been the most prominent figure in my class. I had a few friends, but often felt overlooked or dismissed by my peers. I was determined not to let those feelings persist through high school. However, despite my initial optimism, it didn't take long for me to realize that I was grappling with many of the same emotions and difficulties I had encountered in middle school. My ability to connect with others seemed to elude me, and the prevailing perception of me as a mundane, unremarkable girl persisted. This prompted me to ponder, how could I capture the attention of my fellow students? What could I do to stand out? I embarked on a journey of personal transformation, altering my appearance and style. I experimented with various makeup techniques, hairstyles, and wardrobe choices. I made an effort to engage with people more, despite my inherent shyness. While these changes yielded some modest results, progress felt sluggish, and I remained dissatisfied with the outcome. I continued to ponder my predicament, mulling over what would make me as captivating as Beverly, the newfound star of the cheerleading squad, or as appealing as Paley, who had captured the heart of the soccer team's captain. I racked my brain tirelessly, but no brilliant ideas surfaced. It seemed that my life was simply too unremarkable. But then, like a sudden revelation, I considered that perhaps my quest for something more was the very problem itself. My life had felt dull and uneventful, and I yearned to transform myself into someone intriguing, relevant, and cool. The challenge, however, lay in the fact that both I and those around me perceived me as unremarkable. It was then that a rather unconventional idea took root in my mind. I needed to start inventing stories, fabricating details to capture more attention. I needed to tell lies. My mother had instilled in me the importance of honesty when I was younger, teaching me that lying was wrong. What she hadn't told me was that, without the art of deception, it might prove exceedingly challenging to appear interesting within my peer group. Thus, I resolved to put my theory of falsehoods to the test, starting with a few small lies to gauge their impact on people's perception of me. One morning, as I strolled to school, I spotted a cluster of moderately popular girls engrossed in a conversation about the latest Justin Bieber song. They all appeared to be enjoying it, and I recognized one of the girls in the group, which granted me a modicum of comfort in approaching them. I mentally reassured myself, urging not to panic as I slowly closed the distance. "They'll believe you," I kept repeating to myself. Suddenly, I found myself standing right beside the group of 5 girls, who collectively halted and fixed their gaze upon me, clearly bewildered by my presence. I took a deep breath and decided to dive into my experiment. "This new Justin Bieber song is fantastic, isn't it?" I ventured. "Yeah," one of the girls replied. "I love it. I've been playing it on repeat all week." The other girls regarded me with a mix of uncertainty and curiosity, while the one I knew appeared genuinely surprised. My heart quickened its pace because I knew I was on the verge of uttering a significant untruth. Gathering my courage, I hesitated briefly before finally letting the words spill out. "You know," I began, "I met him last July, and he even gave me his autograph. He asked me to hang out with him." "Oh, my God. Stop it, Lucy," the group's most popular and assertive member interjected abruptly. "Seriously?" I nodded, forging ahead with the tale as I displayed a photo of Justin Bieber and me together. "He's even more handsome in person," I added, fully committing to the deception. Their disbelief was palpable. In reality, I had once caught a glimpse of him as he stepped out of his car and hastily snapped a picture, nothing more. One of the girls, who seemed somewhat unsure of my veracity, asked, "Where were you when you met him?" Panic set in as I pondered how to concoct a believable story. I needed to come up with something convincing and fast. "I was having dinner at this fancy sushi restaurant," I began, fabricating details on the spot. "But my cell phone had terrible reception, and I wanted to check my messages, so I stepped outside for a moment. It turns out," I continued, my confidence in my storytelling growing, "he was dining in the restaurant next door and was struggling with poor reception as well. He was outside trying to get a signal." Lucy and the others gasped in amazement. "Oh my God," Lucy exclaimed, "what happened next?" Encouraged by their apparent belief in my story, I proceeded. I could hardly speak because I was utterly starstruck, I recounted. But somehow, I managed to stammer, "Oh my God, you're Justin Bieber," I added, mimicking my awestruck voice. He looked up from his phone, smiled at me, and said, "Yes." The group of girls seemed thoroughly convinced now, erupting into giggles and high-pitched shrieks of excitement. Sensing that I needed to act swiftly to maintain the illusion, I continued. I knew he would only be there for a moment before going back inside, so I had to seize the opportunity. I desperately wanted his autograph. I recounted how I had my clutch purse with a marker inside but lacked anything for him to sign. So I concluded. I asked, "Can you sign my phone case?" He agreed, and I retrieved my purple marker, handed him my phone, and watched as he signed it. To complete my fabricated flourish, I noted that the marker's back bore the message, "We can hang out later if you want." The girls were utterly captivated by my fabricated story. Their curiosity piqued to the fullest. They begged me to bring the phone case, and throughout the day, whenever our paths crossed, they eagerly approached me with more questions about my supposed encounter with Justin Bieber. I was more than willing to oblige their inquiries. As I walked home from school that day, a sense of triumph washed over me. I had finally discovered a means of garnering attention from my peers, and it felt incredible. That night, I retrieved an old phone case and located a purple Sharpie, hastily scrawling the words "Justin Bieber" on the back in a manner that resembled the hasty writing of a boy. When I brought the phone case to school the following day, Lucy extended an invitation for me to join the popular table during lunch. This was a remarkable turn of events. Though I had attended elementary and middle school alongside Lucy, she had scarcely acknowledged my presence, let alone invited me to sit with her and her clique. As I observed her handling the phone case with genuine amazement in her eyes, I knew I had struck gold. Over the next few weeks, I continued to spin regular lies to maintain the newfound attention. I regaled the athletes and chemistry enthusiasts with tales of my presence at the Red Sox's 2018 World Series victory, impressed the self-proclaimed nerds with my purported knowledge of every episode of The Big Bang Theory, and even convinced some girls in the choir that I possessed a unique genetic variant, granting me the ability to sing like Adele. All in all, my fabrications seemed to be going quite well. However, one day I pushed the boundaries too far, and the consequences were beyond belief. It all began one Friday afternoon when a group of popular kids was discussing plans to visit the beach after school. A charming lacrosse player named Ryan had purportedly discovered a new cliff diving spot into the ocean. Naturally, I wanted to be part of this outing. It presented an ideal opportunity to bond with both the popular boys and girls simultaneously, thereby cementing my status as one of the cool kids. Nevertheless, since I was still on the outskirts of this elite group of about 10 to 20 people, I harbored doubts about whether they would extend an invitation to me. Once again, I relied on my newfound superpower, the art of lying. As I chimed in with the group, suddenly I was an integral part of the conversation. I fabricated a tale recounting how I had indulged in cliff diving in the Maldives during a spring break trip with my cousin. According to my concocted narrative, a local cliff diver had even taught us the secrets of executing flawless backflips. I brazenly offered to demonstrate my superior technique to the group. The response was unexpectedly positive. Ryan, with enthusiasm in his voice, exclaimed, "No way! You can do a backflip? That's epic!" Another of Ryan's friends eagerly chimed in, saying, "Yeah, you should definitely come." My entirely fabricated prowess in cliff jumping and backflips had successfully intrigued them, earning me a coveted spot on the beach trip. After school, I rendezvoused with Lucy, Paisley, Ryan, and approximately 10 other friends. We all piled into the cars of the older kids, making a pit stop at our respective homes to grab our swimsuits. As we cruised toward the ocean, I couldn't help but feel like I had finally arrived. The sun was beaming, I was socializing with the popular crowd, and I found myself sharing car rides with boys several years my senior. It was an exhilarating experience. The euphoria of the moment was so overwhelming that I momentarily forgot the commitment I had made to perform a backflip off a cliff. However, this fleeting feeling of social triumph came crashing down as soon as we reached our destination at the beach. I quickly realized that Ryan and his friends had indeed discovered a legitimate cliff jumping location. After exiting the cars, we navigated across rocky terrain heading toward the cliff. "We're almost there," Ryan declared as we neared the water's edge. and with a few more steps across the rocky terrain, we reached our destination. From atop the cliff, the view was breathtaking, stretching for miles in both directions. I could spot a nearby swimming beach and some shoreline houses. The water below appeared to be about 25 to 30 feet deep, and the waves were fairly substantial. It was nothing short of terrifying. "Okay," Ryan's friend turned to me, assessing the situation. "Why don't you go first and show us that amazing backflip?" I replied confidently, though I could feel my nerves threatening to betray me. "Sounds great." I stripped down to my swimsuit, leaving only that layer of clothing, and approached the precipice. By now, I could sense that some of the girls had noticed my apprehension and probably questioned my purported ability to make the jump. However, I was determined to at least attempt to prove them wrong. Slowly, I inched my way out over the cliff's edge, and as I did, they began to chant my name. "Stella, Stella, Stella, Stella." Their enthusiastic chant filled the air as I approached the edge. I hesitantly peered over, gazing upon the daunting drop in all its intimidating reality. The chanting continued, growing louder with each repetition. As I prepared to jump, the pressure became too much to bear. The lie about my backflip prowess had been like a balloon, lifting me high into the social stratosphere and securing my invitation to this trip. However, in an instant, it felt as though someone had suddenly punctured that balloon. Overwhelmed, I felt a wave of dizziness and lightheadedness wash over me. And then, just as I was about to leap from the cliff and execute the flawless backflip I knew I could never pull off, I fainted. My body plummeted 30 feet into the ocean below, and instead of executing a graceful backflip, I executed a perfect belly flop. Thankfully, the shock of the cold water jolted me back to consciousness, but I found myself struggling to swim. Ryan and two of his friends immediately sprang into action, leaping off the cliff to rescue me when they saw what had happened. After several minutes of struggling in the water, their efforts succeeded, and they helped me safely reach the shore. The rest of the group had also descended from the cliff, and they all gathered around me. As I coughed up some water and extricated seaweed from my hair, I simply waited to see what would unfold next. Ryan, breaking the silence, finally asked, "You've never been to the Maldives, have you?" I hesitated before admitting, well, not exactly. Their collective groans and disappointed head shaking made it clear that my ruse had been exposed. With that, they began their ascent back to the top of the cliff. It was evident that my web of lies had spun out of control, and the charade had reached its end. From that moment forward, I made a concerted effort to curtail my habit of lying. I had no desire to find myself in any more situations where I was unconscious on the top of cliffs. However, to this day, Lucy still believes that I spent time with Justin Bieber, and ultimately, that's what truly matters.